I will call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, February 2nd, and the time is 1:03 p.m. Starla, could I please have you do the roll call for us, please?
Carmelita Chief.
Present.
Catherine Moore.
Here. Here.
Supervisor Judy Begay. Frank Garcia.
Here.
He said here.
Corey Hartman.
Here.
And Beth Verstrate. Yes.
Verstrate, no E.
Oh, Verstrate, so close. All right.
Okay, thank you for doing the roll call. So we do have 5 members out of the 6 present. We'll go ahead and proceed. So item 3 is public participation. I do not see anybody there in the room with you, nor don't think I see anybody in our virtual room. Okay, so let us move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from January 2023. Board, did you have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Okay,
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't here. I was out of state and busy. The schedule, how is it going to change for our meetings?
So the schedule was changed from last calendar year to this calendar year.
Oh, so no, still the first Thursday.
Yeah, it was just when we were going to have like separate discussion points from today. The downtown library will be presenting. So just that.
Okay.
Okay, so I will open the floor for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
I move that we approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you, Catherine. Can I get a second? Or is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Corey seconds. All those in favor, please say your name and indicate your vote. So we'll start with Corey, or actually I'll call you out and then you can indicate your vote. Corey.
Yay.
Okay. Frank.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Catherine.
Approve.
And Beth.
Approve.
Okay, so we do have 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. So the minutes from January's meeting have been approved. We'll move on to item number 5, which is reports and discussion items. We have 3 reports or 3 items to consider today. One of which is the director's report from Richard Tutwiler. The second is the main downtown library topic. And the third is going to be the board member updates. So at this point, I'll let Richard take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. Before I go ahead and get started, I just wanted to let everybody know that unfortunately I do have to get out of here a little bit early for reasons that I will be addressing shortly. I got another meeting and I need to take it, unfortunately. But Amelia Mason is here in my stead to go ahead and talk to you all about the downtown library, and I'm sure she'll do a fantastic job. But with that said, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started on the director's report. You have to bear with me, the computer is running a bit slow today. Come on, you can do it. Okay. This is just for you, isn't it?
I like at the bottom,
Which one?
keep going at the very bottom. And
This one?
that little guy.
Okay. Thank you. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, this will be the director's report for February 2nd, 2023. And I'm gonna go ahead and start with a heartfelt thank you. This is the last meeting that I will be presiding over as library director. Linda Tilson will be coming in later this month on the 21st to take over the reins, and I'm very excited about that. But I did want to say thank you so much for all the support, all the advice that the board has given. I truly appreciate it, and I just wanted to take this time to go ahead and acknowledge that in a meeting. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And without further ado, let's get on into it. We're going to go ahead and start with our downtown library front entry ADA renovation. So again, for the good of the order, the purpose of this renovation is to support an inclusive community and meet Americans with Disability Act's accessibility standards. The downtown library will thus be renovating our front entry plaza. The project includes gently sloping walkways based on inclusive design, revamped parking, and changes to landscaping necessary for project installation. Public artwork will also go along the handrails, and there will be an outdoor seating area for public usage. And now we're going to get to the updates here. So you'll notice in this picture, there's not a whole lot of snow. I can assure you, if you look out there today, there is a lot of snow. And unfortunately, we'll have some changes that we'll have to do because of that. First off, however, site furnishings. I can say that on Monday of this week, the site furnishings were delivered. It was a bit of an event getting them into the library garage to store them. This includes the benches, the tables, all the things that are going to go on that plaza area where people will be able to, sit outside, and we'll also be able to have library programs. So that was a full moving truck full, and it took the better part of multiple hours to get it all out, put it on the storage grounds. But they are here, and that's a good thing. The lead time for those were exceptionally long, and I'm glad that we got them in just in time. They should be putting them in relatively shortly, as that front plaza area is complete for the most part. There's one block of concrete that still needs to be looked at, but outside of that, it's good to go. However, and I will unfortunately have to leave you all today for another meeting about this, we will likely go into a winter shutdown. Now, to be clear, because there's an interesting kind of delineation here between what a winter shutdown is, contractually, versus what will actually be happening in person. So this is a contractual maneuver where we basically pause the contract time on this contract with the contractors, and then move it about a month in the future. Really, the reason that we're doing this is because our contractors are severely behind schedule, and we don't want them to have to dramatically cut corners or hurry through the project. We spoke about this at the executive leadership level. I spoke with Greg Clifton earlier this week, and we decided this is the direction that we're going to go into. So what exactly does that mean? Well, it means technically the project will be paused for roughly a month. However, the contractors will still be on site and working. What this basically allows is for them to catch up on the work that they've already missed. Now, part of that is, just the conditions are tough on the weather side. We've had issues with the contractor who is doing the concrete pours. But there's other, the significant amount of snow we've had this past month has obviously impacted it, as well as, COVID unfortunately hit the crew as well. So that caused some serious delays. This winter shutdown is basically the city offering an olive branch, if you will, to the construction team. We don't want them to, feel like they're going to be liquidized for damages or anything like that. We want to make sure that the project gets done in a timely manner. And realistically, because of the hard frost here in Flagstaff, we were always going to be a little bit late getting the greenery and the landscaping done. So that just puts us back on track to do that. In terms of actual work left on the project, assuming, perfect or as near to perfect weather as Flagstaff can provide, which is always a bit of a handful, we're probably looking at about 6 to 8 weeks of additional work. Again, that will be happening through this shutdown period as well. And I'll have more information about that at a meeting later today in about 15 minutes. So that goes to the next question of scheduling. With the winter shutdown in effect, scheduling becomes more challenging. Prior to this decision and all the snow that we had gotten in January, we were really shooting for a February 7th, completion date, which is already 2 months behind schedule. Realistically, that's just not going to happen. I think we all knew this was a possibility. Construction in winter, especially in Flagstaff, is challenging, if not next to impossible to get done timely. That being said, we're still doing our best to completely, finish the project as soon as possible. When I have an updated schedule, I will provide that to all of you. But for now, we'll see how the weather holds up. It's looking pretty good for the next month, but as we all know, Flagstaff does what Flagstaff wants to do, and we will see what happens. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into our December statistics now. If there's any questions, actually, I'll hold. Is there any questions about the front entry project? And I cannot see hands.
No. No questions from me.
All right, well, I'll keep soldiering on then. So here's our December statistics update. This is different from the one that was shared earlier today by Starla. Unfortunately, as I was preparing this report, I did not have those complete numbers, but obviously I had not shared December either, so let's talk about December. So we continue to see increases in usage at both the downtown and the East Flagstaff library locations. In particular, one thing I'd really like to point out is that the value of loaned material number. So you'll see from last year, the value of each piece of material checked out was about $447,000, and now we're well over $500,000 at $525,000. So that's for every item circulated. There is a number attached to it in terms of what that material would cost, and that's the amount of money that we're saving our patrons every single month. And I really want to highlight that just to show what the library is doing for so many of our patron bases in terms of helping their finances, especially during a time of significant, increased costs due to consumer price index rising, inflation, and coming out of a post-pandemic environment. So we're very happy to see that number, and it's a very easy number to digest for everyone. Your individual who's just coming into the library might not care too much about the circulating materials and what that means, but they see that dollar amount and that will get some eyebrows raised. So we're very happy to share that with y'all.
Richard,
yes?
I was just curious, you did mention inflation. Do you know if that's due mostly to inflation or have like increase in technology use played a factor in that?
Well, again, these costs are set by the vendor that we buy our books from, so it's not necessarily tied to inflation. Items that are newer will likely have costed more than they would have in the past, so surely that number probably went up a little bit. But the way I see it, and historically libraries have seen this just over decades and decades now, when there is times of recession, library usage goes up significantly. Now, recessions may be bad for everybody else, but it's good business for libraries in a way because people really come and utilize our services and materials a lot more than they had in the past. They have less discretionary income. They want to, make sure that their dollars are going further than they had in the past. We've seen that year over year. 2008, with that huge recession, the Great Recession that happened, libraries across the U.S. saw significant increases in circulation and attendance. And then as things got better, they started to drop back down a little bit. But that's pretty consistent. COVID was a bit different in terms of its recession. Obviously, people weren't going out into the public as often. But just over the past couple hundred years, if you look at major recessions, public library usage always increases. So it may just be tied to that as well.
Richard, before you go forward, I did see Kirsten raised her hand and I wanted to see if she still had a comment or question.
Oh, I was just going to comment, and maybe Amelia can touch on this a little bit more as someone who handles most of the purchasing for the library's materials. I would say also that we have a very generous contract with a lot of our vendors, so we get pricing for our materials that the public is not able to access, and so that's another reason too to consider a way that we save money for the general population. We're able to buy multiple copies of items and put things into circulation that maybe people would like to access, but not enough to purchase it for themselves, if that makes sense.
If it's all right, I will just jump in on what Kirsten said. This is Amelia. Yeah, we haven't actually seen too much price increase at this point. Like I think 15 cents per book is about what we're averaging, so not too bad.
Thank you for that. If there's no other questions or comments at this time, I'll go ahead and let Richard proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in terms of downward numbers, you will see that our in-house usage for the downtown location did go down a little bit over the past year, which we really ascribe to challenging weather factors that I was mentioning above. Obviously, January was more harder hit than December, but we had a relatively good year last year. And I believe that's the primary difference between the two. We also have had slightly less programs at EFCL. This is purely due to challenging staff considerations in the public service desks. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing, the individual direct interactions at the desk versus, being able to run programs at that location. So that's just one thing that we've had to do moving forward, and we're hoping that that'll ease away as we move back into normalcy. All right, I'll share a couple December program updates with you all as well. So in that top picture, you can see we have Senior Coffee Hour. The Senior Coffee Hour program launched at the Downtown Library in August in partnership with AmeriCorps Seniors, meets on the third Wednesday of each month to drink coffee and chat about resources and topics for seniors. The December program included a conversation about the importance of correctedness for older adults, We also had our 44th annual holiday program with our youth services team. This is the 44th one, so we're setting good standards there. We had 42 people in attendance, and staff offered stories, songs, and crafts for Flagstaff families. There was also a special visit from Santa Claus there. That's one of our youth services staff, actually, in the Santa suit, so we're happy to be able to do that. And then who doesn't love gingerbread house building, which you can see on that bottom right picture as well. Families were invited to join staff to create gingerbread houses with 37 children in attendance. And we did our best to provide supplies and keep the kids from eating the candy before they actually used it to decorate their houses. Always a challenge. Next up, we have our community living room. That's the picture in the top right. This December, we had Mercy Aiken, who is an author, speaker, and Middle East traveler and peace advocate. One attendee post-event survey response to how would you be impacted if we stopped offering this program was, I would lose my cultural grounding. So that's really one thing that we do, again, to promote inclusivity and awareness of other cultures. And it's gone pretty well. We're happy that it's just been really picked up by members of the community. We've also started our banned book club. In December, they read the completed Persepolis. Persepolis. I'm butchering that. And I'm not even going to try to say that last name. Satrapi. Patrons came from a diverse range of political and ideological perspectives, and the discussion was deep. Patrons provided feedback was such that they appreciate having a safe space to discuss important issues like free speech, censorship, current events, etc. Obviously, I'm sure you all are aware, just kind of across the US, banning books is becoming kind of a hot button topic that it had not been as much of in the past. So we are proud to put ourselves on one side of that spectrum. And we also have a picture of the EFCL art display. Bruce Baldich has had a suite of different work on display at the East Flagstaff Community Library. So if you want to come check it out, it's all throughout the library. Is there any questions before I move to some other updates?
Yeah, are you getting a lot of challenges from patrons about the books that are in the library, or people bringing stuff that they want removed?
So we've had one or two challenges, not very many. The most recent one that I can remember was really about some children's Thanksgiving books. The individual felt that part of our Native American community was not represented accurately. So we did meet as a team and look over those items, and we actually did remove some from the collection that were probably not historically accurate anymore. But outside of that, our community's been mostly pretty good about understanding that sometimes you're just going to disagree with the content of a book on a personal level, but understanding that that content may be appropriate or useful to another individual member of the community. So that's the only one I can really remember.
Perfect, that's good to hear.
So for other updates, Proof Studios has begun work on a new library website. We are currently in the framework development stage to replace our existing one. Mark Caesar and I have met alongside with Dave Botts with Proof Studios. We meet every Tuesday to go over our progress on that. And we're really focusing on usability for members of our public, making sure that the navigation is as intuitive and easy to kind of read as possible. One thing that I myself am really worried about is having too many options and too small of a space. I want to ensure that it's very, very readable and easy for individuals to find what they're looking for. So just a quick update there.
Richard, this is Catherine. I had a question on that.
Sure.
Are you going to have some public input or maybe our input on the usability before you finalize everything?
Well, I'm not against the idea. That's probably something that's going to end up being Linda's decision, because that'll be far enough in the future where she'll be sitting in that chair and probably overseeing that project. That being said, at this point, we're really trying to prioritize, ensuring that we don't have too many cooks in the kitchen on this, and I don't mean to, derail that thought process. But in the past, that's been a challenge where we have too many people wanting different things, and then the project gets bogged down. That's why we've had the website that we do have for so long. So that's just something I'm very mindful of. But again, that'll be a consideration that Linda will be able to think about.
Okay.
Also, the Grand Canyon Library, Will can speak more to this if you have questions, but the National Park Service will begin foundation and roof repairs on the existing public library building in May and June. That is a bit of a delay from what I previously announced to you all. When that does happen, we will be moving into that Chase Bank building, but it's a little further away than we had thought. We were expecting maybe February we would be moving in, but it will not be until later in the spring. Furthermore, the Forest Lakes Library, they completed a shelving renovation, and a 130-foot Wi-Fi tower is also being set up with a ETA of April this year. You can see that shelving renovation on the top right, and then at the bottom right, you can see them starting to build that Wi-Fi tower that should hopefully really improve services there. And at the Tuba City Library, our telehealth pilot project is in the works with plans to enable library patrons to check out health-related peripheral equipment for use to monitor health between doctor visits or for pre and post-operative care, and check in on health trend lines. So there's a couple updates from our county libraries as well. And that's all I have for you. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll skedaddle and hand things over to Amelia.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I have a quick question about that last one, the telehealth pilot project. Who is the partner on that?
So I'm going to defer that question to Will Escarza.
Yeah, it's a partnership with the University of Arizona and NAU. There are a couple other partners in on that. There have been pilot programs that have occurred down in Pima County, for example, last year. So the plan is to extend that to Tuba City and the chapter houses on the Navajo reservation. So not necessarily just in Coconino County, but also in Navajo and Apache counties.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we could, I would love to hear more about that when we actually get to the topic of Tuba City's library.
Certainly.
And Richard, I know you have to go. I don't know how much time you have left here with us. If not, I can just ask you another time. But I wanted to hear a little bit more about the community living room project or program.
Sure, so that's a program that our reference team handles, and what they really try to do is have a different topic, you know, for different cultures each time. So every month it's a little different. So Mercy, who did this most recent one in December, she's actually an employee here, and she's actually on a leave of absence to the Middle East as we speak. So it just goes to show how world traveled a lot of our employees are here. But each one is different, so it's hard for me to specifically talk about each individual one. But really, the purpose of the program is to develop, you know, an inclusive and open environment for people to speak about different cultures and their own experiences. So we have different people each time.
Oh, okay. Do you have a sign-up sheet? Is that voluntary, or do you have a committee that selects people?
So that is from our reference department. So Lauren Clementino would be the one to reach out for anything like that. It is an open program. So in terms of signing up, you know, to host the program, you'd want to work through Lauren. But in terms of just attending that, that is open to everybody.
Okay, great. I don't have any other questions, board. I'll open up the floor to you all if you have any comments, questions.
This is Corey. I just have a quick question. The application for artists to display their work, is that something that they pick up in the library or can find online, and do they have to submit like a sample to be reviewed first or anything like that?
So for that particular one, since that one's at EFCL, our supervisor over there, Barbara Tate, she handles most of those. There's not really like a formalized process. It's really, you know, just reaching out to the supervisor to see if there's a way that they can go ahead and display that art. Now for the downtown location, we do have two different you know, glass cases where people can also display art, and those would also go through Lauren Clementino for.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to run to my next meeting, which starts now. Thank you all as usual, and I'll leave it to Amelia.
Thank you so much, Jared. Thank you for, or not Jared, oh my gosh. Richard, I am so sorry for that. But thank you again for all of your efforts. Yeah, just thank you. And I don't want to prolong you from going to your next meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
All right, so with that, if we can go down to item, let's see, 5.3. Starla, I'm just assuming that you would take over the reins to provide an update or at least a summary of where we're at with our board composition and who's left and how many vacancies do we have and what are some of the efforts around advertising or marketing for those positions, if we've even gotten any interest so far.
Well, I don't really know because I haven't been involved in it that much. I know that I emailed Stacy Fogar, and then Richard sent out an email also having another employee staff reach out to post the position. It's the only thing I've really heard about is Catherine Moore reapplying, and that is all I've heard. Like, I haven't heard back from City Hall or anything, so I have no idea. I don't have a lot of information.
Okay. Kirsten, I see your hands up.
Yep, I did have Alex Pashon, another member of our admin team, work on reaching out to like the Daily Sun and several of other local places that have their own publications to run this as an advertisement. The Daily Sun is the one that comes to mind because it's also the only one that answered her request. So she has like a follow-up in on some of the other ones. She reached out to NAU to post it. She reached out to some local downtown authorities trying to get the word out, you know, in more diverse locations that this position is available and things like that. So we're trying to get the word out there, but as far as communication from the city hall about whether or not we have any applicants or how that's going, we have not received word.
And how many openings are there?
There is your opening, which I think you've requested reappointment, and that should go forward without a problem. And then there's another temporary position available as well.
Okay, because I applied back in November online and I never heard anything back. I was just wondering if the online application even worked, because last time I did it on paper and I never heard back from whoever gets those applications until Starla reached out to ask, and then I saw some messages about that. So it's kind of a seems like a black hole of how to get information, like even after you apply, if they're working on it or what's going on.
Definitely. One route of remedy that I might suggest is reaching out to city council members. This was a topic that came up during the last retreat for them when they were talking about how they wanted to handle commission and board appointments going forward. So this might be something you bring up to a council member and just let them know your experience with the process and what you'd like to see going forward, because we do have some new council members that have just been appointed, a new mayor. And so I know that they're interested in hearing what could be better about this process and things that we could do to make it more streamlined, because yeah, you're right. There's definitely room for improvement.
Well, honestly, I don't know who the council members are or how to reach out to them.
Okay. We can definitely get you that information for sure. We can send that out to the board. Okay. And then we do have the city clerk contact that we use is Stacy Fobar. She runs all of the boards and commissions. She's very, very busy, obviously, but she's definitely been our point of contact for this process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that information, Kirsten. So Starla and Kirsten, could I ask either of you to send the board not information, but maybe an example of the graphic that you're using for marketing for that position so that we then can share it with our own contacts through email or, you know, social media or whatever?
Absolutely. We've shared it a couple of times on the library's Facebook page, so we'll just pull that graphic and send it in an email. Okay. Yep. And then before we get too far on the board member updates, I did want to say we do have a main downtown library update that Amelia should be have prepared for us. And so I didn't want to skip over that portion of the agenda.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. I just had assumed that was folded into Richard's report. So we'll go ahead and reverse and do the main downtown library report.
Thank you, Starla, and thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate it. I'm gonna, excuse me, share my screen if it will let me. Can you see that? Okay, awesome. So this is the downtown specific update for today. We have first, we wanted to just share with you some of the accomplishments that we were able to do in 2022, which included our sustainable shelves programming, cultural passes, library of things, and I'll go into each of these. They all have their own screen. So first, our sustainable shelves program, our staff After we have gone through and weeded our collection for items that are no longer in use or no longer up to date, that's then given to our friends of the library who goes through it and see if it's something they would like to offer through their book sale or through their Amazon shop. If not, we then scan all of the barcodes and we box them up and we ship them to Baker and Taylor, who is our main book vendor. And then they will deposit a credit for certain items that they can resell or whatever they can do with them. And then we can then use these credits to offset future purchasing. Last year, I believe we had about 1,060 that we received through this program, and we hadn't started doing it at the main library until partway through the year, because that's when we started really weeding our nonfiction heavily for accuracy and such. We've also introduced cultural passes. These are in collaboration with Act One Arizona, and it allows any library card holder free access to partnering culture organizations. Local ones that participate in this program are the Arboretum, the Museum of Northern Arizona. There's also ones down in the valley and Tucson, like the Herd Museum, the zoo, U of A Museum of Art. So far, thousands of passes have been checked out through this program. It's been very popular. People are able to, each pass admits 2 people and is good for 1 week for people to be able to go and experience these things without having to maybe pay a price tag they can't afford. We've also been able to put together a library of things. This collection is more non-traditional circulating items like charging cables, bike locks, an engraver, art kits. We even have, I believe, a stand mixer over at our East Side Library. And this was all thanks to an Arizona Library Service and Technology grant that Will was able to secure for our libraries. And each of the libraries in the county, I believe, were able to add some Library of Things items to their collection. And it has been very, very popular. Next, we have our Chromebook and mobile hotspots. These were made available a little earlier in the year. We've now kind of put them under the umbrella of the Library of Things. But this is to accommodate the heavy need of patrons for internet access. So it gets them a hotspot, a laptop, charging cord, mouse, all the accessories that are needed. It was grant funded and has been very, very popular to the point that we're having a hard time keeping them on the shelf. It's generally on hold, and as soon as it gets turned back in, it's going out to someone else. Another initiative we were able to do was our digital literacy workshops. This was an incentive provided through the Public Library Administration to support digital literacy. The workshops began late in the fall, and they've actually continued through the new year. And it's been run by one of our reference staff to help our patrons learn the skill sets needed to navigate complex online environments. One of our newest updates just got put in the library late last week was this privacy on demand pod. This was also provided by by a grant through the state library. So it's a private meeting room with chair, table. There's USB and charging outlets. The pod is soundproofed, has lights and fan and such. Right now we're doing it on a first come, first served basis. A person can use it for 2 hours at a time every day. And we have, you could probably see the little clipboard hanging on the side there. That's the way we're running the signups right now. We've had less than a week of use so far, so we're still determining if that's the best way to do it, but so far so good at least. And then finally, Richard, of course, touched on the front entry and, the plan of what it should look like eventually. And more what it looks like right now. As you know, the temporary entrance is through the youth services area. We also have a book drop over there for patrons to drop off the books without having to come in or off hours. Like he already touched on, it's ongoing and hopefully will be done sometime this spring. So next, beyond the front entry project and the website, like Richard already talked about, we'd love to know what else the board would like to see us complete this year. And we could take these questions one at a time, or I can throw them all at you and you can speak to whichever one you like. But, you know, what groups can we better support? What services can we provide? What skills can we teach? What would you like to see from your library?
This is Catherine. I've always had a question about the use of the, I don't know what you call it, I guess the lobby, like when you walk in and there's the big kind of empty space that has a few little displays of books there.
Yeah,
and
the corridor towards the bathroom.
No, just walking straight in, and then there's the table with the lunches on it, and then just the big open area before you get to. Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys ever have discussions of like, you know, different uses for that area. It seems like such a big area that's not like really maybe utilized a lot.
Yeah. So as you know, we're in such a transition period right now. We had several people commenting on how much they really enjoyed having the large Christmas tree decoration up there during the holidays, as it gave kind of a focal point to that entryway and something for people to look at as they're sitting in those chairs instead of staring across the circle at their neighbor. So we've actually had some discussions about, you know, is there something else we could put there? Do we want to move one of our displays so it's more central and more highlighted? Once the front entry is actually completed, a lot of that space is going to be shifting again, because some of the seating that's there we actually borrowed from youth services as they made changes to their area in order to serve as the front entry. So I'm sure we would welcome any ideas, but that's what I can tell you about it right now.
Thanks. Maybe we could just put it on a future agenda to, if anybody else has ideas to throw out. It's such a nice area.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just kind of thinking a thought that popped up in my mind was, well, a question really is whether or not the library staff as a whole department or as a whole, oh my gosh, entity, if you all have an annual strategic planning retreat that you plan every year, just to touch on these types of questions.
We do not. I'll pass this one to Kristen. Go ahead.
Okay.
Not a problem. I'll take this one away. That is not something that has previously taken place, but that is something that has been touched on multiple times with Linda's ascension to this new director's position. And so that's something she has extensive experience with. It's something I'm looking forward to seeing at this library. It's something I had at my last library, and I think it really can just transform the impact that the library has on the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way that Linda brings the her extensive 20+ years experience as a director and strategic planning to our library and see what we can do. As far as I know, she doesn't have anything set even tentatively on the schedule. I'm sure that will change as she, you know, gets settled into her position. It is definitely one of the things that was emphasized in the interviews and is something that Heidi, the person that she'll be directly reporting to, is going to be looking for. So it's something that I definitely encourage you guys to keep following up about because it is going to be something that we start the process for as soon as she comes on board. So
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll keep a, definitely will keep a mental note about that because I think that's really important. And it would be great to kind of just see the synergy between the staff's input and their thoughts along with ours and kind of work those together if we can and just have a dedicated space and time to talk about those ideas together. So
Absolutely. My last library, the board was actively involved in the strategic planning, so it would be good to for Linda to reach out to you guys when we start that process.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirsten. Board, any other feedback, comments regarding these questions or even anything at all?
I have something.
Go for it, Beth.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I think the library is fantastic. The amount of services you offer, kind of pie in the sky. My daughter's from Olathe, Kansas, and one of the things that are offered at their library is a makerspace. She was actually able to go to the library and she created trophy things to hold the cars that they race for the Boy Scouts at that library. And like I said, it's kind of pie in the sky, but it's a service that one library that I know of provides. And NAU does it as well, but they do not have that kind of equipment there. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I will just speak briefly to that, in that it is something that we have discussed in the past as a library leadership team, and whether it was something we could bring to our community. And at the time, and it's been a few years since we've discussed it, but at the time, the answer for us was no, and partially that was because NAU does have some space for that, and then also just the staffing that would be needed to keep it up and running and to assist people and that kind of expertise we just didn't have on staff or didn't have the ability to hire.
And the
But
space too, right? You'd have to,
yeah,
have to expand, yeah.
yeah, where to put it's always a good question. But yeah, it's a great offering that many libraries are able to do, and it'd be really neat if we could.
I have something to add. So when I was first telling my own friends and my network that I had joined the library board, somebody had offered a comment to me saying, "Oh, it would be so cool if the library showcased zines that were made by local teens, local young people." To provide something like that. And in addition to that, it would be awesome to maybe have a dedicated program, just like how do you make what is a zine? How do you make it? What is the intersection between making that with supporting mental health or just like community building?
I think that's lovely. I will actually pass that idea on to our programming librarians. And I will say, I don't know if you've heard about the local teen artist that we've the Eastside Library is doing a teen artist program where they're asking for applications to have a teen kind of showcase their work, similar to the one that Richard had shared earlier. Not quite the same thing, but definitely reaching out to that demographic and trying to encourage that talent. But I will mention this idea specifically to our programming librarians. Thank you.
Awesome. In connection to that, I went to an event hosted by the Museum of Northern Arizona. I want to say sometime over the past summer, and they had some people come in from Phoenix, but they essentially taught us how to make our own mini books. It was called a bookmaking class of some sort, but those again could be turned into like journals or journal making, but it was just really fun to get to meet other people at that event. And so that I feel like that would also kind of tie into the whole zine making thing, although it would be kind of like a journaling type of thing. So that's kind of what's rummaging around in my mind right now.
Awesome, thank you. I will also share that.
Let me see. So there's another thing I had mentioned. I wasn't at last month's board meeting, but I think it was the meeting prior, but I was trying to bring attention to how we are doing community engagement, whether I know that we have Facebook and we have Instagram, but our young people, TikTok is like super, super engaging for them, for their age demographic. And so I just maybe, and this is definitely something that we can mention to Linda, but also having our library explore setting up that type of engagement platform through TikTok. I think they're fun. I've seen other ones, friends share like Milwaukee's TikTok page with me, a lot of them around Flagstaff, like Pima County's library page or library TikTok. So I just wanted to say that again. And I see somebody's hand up. Kirsten.
Yep. I just wanted to touch on this. We're in the process of the budgeting cycle. Currently, one of the positions that we're requesting as we go before the city council is actually funded by the county. And we're looking at creating essentially what would be called a marketing specialist. And so they would be in charge of all of the library marketing, and that would allow the dedicated time necessary to maintain an account like this. So it is definitely something that's in the works. It's on our radar. We're definitely looking at different ways to reach people because, yeah, you're right. TikTok and Book Talk in particular has been phenomenal for literacy and reaching teens where they are. So yeah, this is definitely something that's on our radar, and we're hoping to implement something soon to this degree. Someone would be, it would be like their job to be handling all of marketing, branding, and whatnot for the library. So we're hopeful as we go into this budget cycle that we'll be able to work it all out. But yeah, it's definitely something that's been on our radar for a little while.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. Okay, board. I do want to start wrapping up here. Amelia, was this your closing slide?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Before we move on, any last comments or questions? No, okay. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation. We really do appreciate it. I will move us on to item 6, which is action items. And we have one there. It says possible amendment to meeting dates. And I'm not sure who the presenter on that would be.
Well, I can take the lead. We had a request from our other admin, who's not present at this meeting. If it's possible, if the board agrees to move instead of every first Thursday of the month, possibly like every second Thursday of the month, simply because of the statistics. A lot of the library board meeting falls on the very first, and this is why, like today, I sent out the statistics because the statistics are compiled by multiple supervisors here in the library. So compiling all that data and getting it ready by the first, it's very challenging, and there's usually a delay. It has happened in the past where I don't have the statistics ready by the time the library board meeting happens, and I produce them, a few days later. So it was just a question, a possible request, if we can look at another Thursday throughout the month, that might work better for everybody. But if not, it will stay, just I guess more or less with the understanding that there could be delays ongoing with the statistics.
Yeah, that's pretty understandable. Board, I'll open up the floor for discussion.
This is Catherine. I'm fine with moving it to the second.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I'm fine with that as well. I'll go ahead and welcome a formal motion just so that we can get that recorded.
I move that we reschedule our monthly meetings to the second Thursday of the month at the same time, 1 p.m. It's Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Frank. It's been seconded. So all those in favor, please let all those in, well, actually, I will open up the floor now for votes. So please pipe up with your name and your votes.
This is Catherine, I approve.
Corey,
Frank approved.
sorry.
Okay. Corey, I think, yeah, both of you had talked at the same time, but I assume that was a yes. All right. So with that, we do approve that motion to move our meeting to the second Thursday of the month, same time at 1 o'clock. There was the vote, final vote was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention. All right, great. So we are moving right along. Item 7, any informational items from board members? No. Okay. All right, so next one is agenda for future meetings, item number 8. Is there a presenter for that topic? Does that ring a bell, board? Is that something that you discussed at your last meeting?
What was it again? I'm not looking at the agenda.
Oh, it's item number 8, agenda for future meetings.
Isn't that just where we throw out topics for next month if we have anything?
Yep,
Yes.
and it'll also be filled in at the end of this meeting when Starla sends out the minutes. It'll be whatever's scheduled for next month, the topic.
Okay. I would
Okay.
like to make sure we put on there discussing the use of the lobby area.
I have it noted.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay. So that brings us to number 9, our next board meeting, which, well, after the decision we just made would now be March 9th, 2023. Right? All right, with that, I will adjourn our meeting if there's no other comments or questions. It is 2 o'clock and the meeting has been adjourned.
Thank you so much, Carmelita.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Carmelita.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Bye.
great week. Bye.
Bye.